Welcome back to the Man Down Podcast Network. On this channel, we bring you a lot of objective takes when it comes to sports, whether it's NBA, NFL. We're not like every other station that you might see in the mainstream that got an agenda with what they talk about. We talk about the real here. So I wanted to get on here a little bit and talk about the Lakers and kind of the uproar that's going on around them. They playing below 500 basketball. AD's injury issues has become a problem. LeBron's getting older, and it seems like um, the blame is getting put on Westbrook, on Russell Westbrook. He is playing not superb basketball. He's still getting his numbers, but he's not playing superb basketball. But that's kind of what he's been pretty much his whole career. So it's no surprise there. So I want to talk about what I kind of see that might be kind of the issue, and if it's fair to place the blame on Westbrook, and then what solutions are there. If Westbrook needs to be traded, if they need to make that type of change to try to turn the ship around, kind of explore some of the possible trades that might be out there. It's tougher than you think to get rid of Westbrook and his contract with what he brings to the table for a team. So we'll kind of start there. I want to start with the whole purpose of them bringing Russell Westbrook there in the first place. That might be the first mistake they made. Um, they made some moves this summer. All right, what? Let me backtrack. They got the bubble ring. Anthony Davis played phenomenal. LeBron played phenomenal. The Lakers played phenomenal basketball. Um, it was a small sample size. Of course, it was the bubble. It was kind of a tournament, minus all the traveling that you have to do at a regular NBA playoff grind. It was a little different. It was a different grind, a different mental hurdle to have to come up with. But nonetheless, it was a hurdle, right? But it was just different from the normal grind. So they get their bubble ring, and now we're calling Anthony Davis a top 5 player. We're calling LeBron the GOAT and all this stuff. This is what a lot of people were doing. And they go into the summer and they start shedding players that helped them get that ring. You got a defensive minded Dwight Howard, who's a former superstar, who led a team in Orlando to the finals on his back. That's a great asset to have coming off your bench, right? Then you had a defender, a rim protector, and a high IQ basketball player who's willing to come off the bench and be used however you wanted to use him in JaVale McGee with championship pedigree. You have a 3-point shooter, whether he might be streaky or not, but you had Danny Green, who also high IQ guy, also a defensive guy, 3-and-D with championship pedigree. And then you had Rondo with championship pedigree, who's also a high IQ guy, who upped his game up to be able to hit the open three, took his role coming off the bench and being used sporadically, and his role of not being able to have the ball and make decisions as much because, they was allowing LeBron to do that. And, he turned into a catch and shoot 3-point shooter. Nonetheless, they get rid of those 4 guys, bring in Marc Gasol, bring in Wes Matthews, bring in Montrezl Harrell, Dennis Schroeder, right? None of those guys have the championship pedigree. None of those guys have the intangibles that I just talked about, the 4 guys they got rid of. But I think they wanted to get younger, right? So you get younger. It doesn't work. LeBron is getting injured. AD is getting injured. And then they think, oh, shoot, maybe we did need that rim protector because AD is not ready to play 5 and he don't want to play 5. He don't want to play down low consistently. Let's try to make a move before the playoffs and bring Andre Drummond in. That didn't work. So now you're shedding Harold, Schroeder, Wes Matthews, Andre Drummond, Marc Gasol. You get rid of those guys and you bring in a whole new set of guys who I think would have worked when they had Kendrick Nunn, Carmelo Anthony. They bring back Dwight. They bring back Rondo. They bring back Ariza. They getting these guys, and I'm like, oh shoot, this roster might turn out to be something. And they messed it up. They made one fatal mistake and traded. I guess they were just ready to get rid of Kuzma and Caldwell Pope, and especially Montrezl Harrell. They was like, hey, look, we're not going to use these guys. We're ready to get rid of them, and they did, right? However, you get rid of these guys who, even though you might felt like they may have been a waste on your roster once you brought those other guys in, at least you wasn't paying them $44 million. Um, and that way you don't have to feel like you have to play them. You got Kuzma and all these guys. You can put them on the bench. You can give them a little bit of minutes. You can have some DNPs every now and then when they're not playing right. You can't do that with Westbrook, especially when he's making $44 million and he's making more than LeBron James and Anthony Davis. Right? He's making more than your number one and your number two. It's kind of hard to bench that and then tell the owner, hey, those guys and those assets you just traded to bring him in, and you're paying him $44 million this year, and he has a player option next year. We're going to DMP him. We can't play him, right? You can't make those type of basketball decisions when the finances are tangled up like that, right? So they made a mistake bringing him in for basketball reasons and for contract reasons. So you bring in the basketball issue, you bring in a contract issue as well, all because you feel like we need to rush and we have this 2-year window with LeBron and we need to kind of maximize what we can get. Maybe Russell Westbrook can help us out. Let me show you what Rob Pelinka said his idea was in bringing Russ, which don't make a lot of sense to me, but I would throw this on the screen, and this is what Rob said. He said, we knew that as LeBron journeyed towards year 19 in the league and then year 20, we couldn't rely on him as the sole engine for our team, right? So what he's saying is, for LeBron to be the point guard and for him to orchestrate the entire offense and make plays for everyone and himself, we didn't want him doing that for 82 games plus playoffs in year 19 and 20, right? So according to this quote, his bright idea was, let's bring in Westbrook, someone who does the exact same thing as LeBron James, who has, for his career, at least after Kevin Durant left OKC, has been the playmaker that makes plays for everyone on the offense, including himself. So in their bright minds, they felt like, well, Russell can help LeBron get through this 82-game stretch, doing similar things on the floor, and that way we can take the load off LeBron so he can make it through the gauntlet that is the playoffs, right? Kind of makes sense if you're bringing in a guy on the cheap, but to bring in someone that makes the amount of money that Russell Westbrook makes, look at this, $44 million owed to him this year, more than LeBron James, more than Anthony Davis. You just signed Horton Tucker, so he's the 4th highest paid. And then Kendrick Nunn, who hasn't even played yet this year, is the 5th highest paid. Everyone else on the roster, including Carmelo Anthony, who's probably been the best player on the floor outside of LeBron James, is making the veteran minimum, less than $2 million a year, right? The entire roster is making it. That is your top 5 players as far as salary, and Russell Westbrook is your number 1. You can't bench that. You can't bench it, and it's very, very, very hard to move that contract via a trade. So they kind of stuck with Russ, and they got themselves in the pickle because the only way it's going to work is if Russ can reinvent himself and erase the past 13 years that he's been in the league and become something else that he's not, right? It's a bad thing all around. So how do they get around it? If they can find an idiot GM that's willing to make the trade, I think in my mind there's a couple of scenarios, right? First and foremost, to find someone desperate to do that, let's think of one scenario. Scenario number 1. Let's say you have a GM and has a team that doesn't have a lot of star power, but they also don't have a huge cap hit. They're not paying a lot of big salaries, right? But let's say they just want to sell some tickets. Let's say they're not been able to pack their arenas. The team's not that competitive. They might not make the playoffs, and they just want to sell some tickets. It might be a even trade to say, okay, let's bring in Westbrook. We know we're not going to win big in the playoffs, but if he can come in and we don't have a superstar, now we will have a quote unquote superstar that has a huge name. We can sell some tickets, we can market around them. What I'm saying? The triple double is still coveted in everybody's mind. Maybe we can talk about that, things like that. His attitude on the court, his enthusiasm. Maybe that can be a big draw and we can sell more tickets. So what type of teams they might be? Well, you have to find a squad that fits that bill. And in my mind, I'm thinking Detroit, because everybody else this is according to 2019, 2020, as far as the revenue a franchise brought in. It might be still similar this year, plus or minus a couple of franchises, like Phoenix and stuff like that, right? So I'm looking at Detroit, and I got them circled. Definitely not the Wizards, because they just got rid of Russ. But I'm looking at some of these other squads. I'm gonna key in on Detroit. So is there a scenario where a trade can happen with Detroit, and I go to ESPN trade generator and I find a successful trade that make the money make sense, right? That includes Jeremy Grant and Kelly Olynyk and their number one draft pick rookie. I don't think Detroit is dumb enough to do this trade, but stranger thing has happened. It's very possible. This this could this could work. This is the way they can get off of Russ, right? That's possible. Now, would Detroit do it? Like I said, there would have to be an idiot GM in place to even do that, but that's a way they can make the money make sense. Another scenario that I can see them doing is, let's say someone's just want to do the buddy system, right? And I seen that happen twice in 1 year. I seen Kevin McHale when he was the president and the GM of the Minnesota Timberwolves, and Kevin Garnett couldn't get them over the hump. You take this superstar and send him to your alma mater, almost, the Boston Celtics, for a little or nothing. They got Al Jefferson and some draft picks, right? You send KG, the big ticket, while in his prime, to the team you played all your years in, Boston. It was almost like that's what I call the buddy system. I'm going to give you this player. I'm going to give it to my old squad, my old franchise, and then I'm going to resign as soon as I do it. The same year, Jerry West was the president with the Grizzlies. He did the same exact thing and sent Paul Gasol to his buddy and buddy franchise in the Lakers, and then resigned right after. Very weird things that happen. Kevin McHale sent big ticket to Boston and resigns, and Jerry West does the same thing, send Gasol to the Lakers and resigns, right? So let's say for all the things that LeBron has been through with Cleveland, bringing them their first ring after he broke their heart and went to Miami, he kept his promise. He came back. He let bygones be bygones. And him and Dale Gilbert got some type of relationship where, okay, we go do this, even though we probably don't like each other, we go do this. Maybe Dan Gilbert owed him a favor. And maybe he says, hey, won't you take Russ off my hand? I bought you a ring to Cleveland. Your franchise would be worth probably half of what it's worth now if it wasn't for me. I've put a lot of money in your pockets. Do me this one good favor. I got 2 years left. Take Russ' contract off my hand. And they send him to Cleveland, send him Kevin Love and Ricky Rubio. That works, right? The roster would have to be kind of, figured out, because AD still don't want to play five. But let's say if he does man up and he's playing five and K-Love's playing the four, then you got LeBron. Maybe you start Melo, but it might be too slow at that point. So Melo might still be the sixth man coming off the bench, but I think Rondo will be good there. But maybe you want to start Rubio if you paying him that much. So LeBron, Rubio, K-Love, maybe Ken Bazemore, maybe Ariza, whoever, and then AD. I don't know. Maybe that works. But these are just scenarios to kind of get rid of Russ. The last way I see is you got two teams with two issues. Lakers got a Westbrook issue. 76ers have a Ben Simmons issue. And maybe Doc might be desperate and saying, hey, look, we're getting zero things from Ben Simmons. At least we can get something from Russ. So maybe they try to make that make sense. And they send Ben Simmons and Danny Green that makes the money work for Russell Westbrook, right? The Lakers have no draft picks to sweeten the deal. So, like I said, this would have to be desperation situations for the GM and the franchise, or just dummy moves, or both. Because anybody who takes Westbrook at this point is kind of a dummy. And so that's the only way I can see it. But I don't think any GM is that crazy. So how do they fix the issue that they have with having one of the highest paid rosters, being over the cap, having three guys with max deals, but being 2 games under 500 and possibly looking at not making it out of the play-in game, maybe not even making the playoffs, or going home in the first round? Like, that's just too expensive to be going home in the first round, right? So how do they get out of this? Well, unfortunately, you just might have to blow the whole squad up. Get rid of LeBron, get rid of Westbrook, keep AD, and send LeBron back home. Cleveland, this is for you. Send LeBron back home. Send Westbrook somewhere, maybe Philly. This is the example I have. I got them going to Philly, and bring back Caleb, Rubio, Danny Green, Ben Simmons. Just blow it all up, figure it out. Build your team around Ben Simmons and AD. That may work better than having the older LeBron, and you don't feel like you're desperate and you have to take these contracts like Westbrook because you feel like you got a 2-year window with LeBron. You got a little bit more time with Ben Simmons. I would really do that. If we're going home in the first round, I'd rather go home in the first round with something I can build on in the future versus something that I'm going home in the first round, I'm paying all this money, and I only got 2 years with my best player. So, yeah, just in my opinion, they have a major Westbrook problem. Having him on the floor and having to deal with his, I don't want to call him a low IQ guy, especially not for someone who made it this far in the league and has been an MVP and all that stuff. But, being clumsy, lackadaisical with the ball, he just might not be a point guard. That's the real thing to it, man. You probably be better suited using him like a, I don't know, maybe, I'm trying to kind of compare him to someone. Maybe AI, put him at the 2 and let him just be a scorer. Or I don't know. Be honest with you, the way I see Westbrook, someone is that athletic, that strong for his size, that wants to, he can play fast, he can play tough. I see him with potentially being a lockdown defender, and I don't know why he's not a lockdown defender. He's more gifted physically than Gary Payton is. I always thought he could be a Gary Payton type on the defensive end, and on the offensive end, he just need to be something closer to Rondo than what he's trying to be. What he's trying to be, I think he's trying to be a Dame Lillard or something like that, or D Wade. He just need to be someone that's going to say, hey, I'm going to hustle, I'm gonna defend my butt off, and I take that back. He can't even be a Rondo because look at these passes. Look at the decision he's making. So I don't know. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer based on the triple-double stat, but he honestly, his days as a starter on a team should have been over 3 or 4 years ago. He should have been instant offense off the bench for some contending team. And the Lakers are finding this out right now, and it's unfortunate because they got to deal with it, and it's a $44 million problem. And he has a player option for next year. So you think he's turning down that player option? It's not happening. So if the Lakers want to get out of this, because they ain't got but a couple of more years with LeBron, if the Lakers want to get out of this, it's got to be a deal made, because he's going to accept that option. He's going to accept that option. Or maybe he humbles himself and say, hey, I understand I'm not giving y'all what y'all thought y'all was going to get. So maybe I restructure my contract. Yeah, I don't know if he would do anything like that, but something needs to shake. Something needs to happen. But this is what we got. Let me know what you think in the comments. Do the Lakers need to move on from Russ, or do you think the biggest issue is Anthony Davis not being healthy, or the team not being healthy? What do you think the biggest issue is? Let me know in the comments. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Check out all our other content. Make sure you leave me a like as well, and hit that notification bell so you get all the updated videos whenever they come out or whenever they premiere. Until then, I'll see y'all next time.